Hello everybody and welcome back to F1 23 with me, Dan, and the Slothz team as we get underway with the second race of the season. Immediately getting a department event there, but we're going to increase Jack Doohan's pace for a little while, which will hopefully mean he gets a little bit closer to scoring his first point. Over to the activities, just grabbing a few to try and get some XP for the team, mainly because I want those extra sponsors. We're not far off getting level 10 for the team already, so we basically want to try and rush to 10 and unlock that second sponsor slot. Anyway, if anyone's watching or playing F1 23, don't forget to comment down below if you're enjoying it. Let us know. And I would imagine at some point in the near future, I'll try and do some multiplayer lobbies as well and have some people join in as well. So comment down below if you'd like to get involved in that as we get underway in practice. Now, small disclaimer actually before we get on to the actual race. I did set it to 35% distance, although I feel like we ran into a bug at this Grand Prix specifically, where it's only done 13 laps, and I'm sure that it's a 50-lap Grand Prix usually, and 35% of 50 is not 13. It should be about 16, 17 laps long. I could be wrong if it's changed this year, but I wasn't aware that it had, so I think for this race, it's going to be about 25% distance, but then all the others that I've done since have returned back to like around 20-ish laps at the 35% distant mark. So that's just a bit of a weird thing to brush over immediately, but so far it's not happened again, and I've gone all the way up to the end of Miami, which is race 4, and coming out in a couple of days' time on Friday, so don't forget to stick around for that one. As for R&D at the moment, we're basically still waiting on everything to finish up that we started working on in the previous video, so we're not really going to get any noticeable improvement. The only beneficial thing, I suppose, is that we're not too bad around Saudi Arabia, so should be able to do fairly okay. But we are going to go into R&D and try and pick up some stuff. You can see exactly what we've got unlocked and not got unlocked so far. But for now, it's probably going to be a point-saving exercise. Although, no, actually, we will pick up that rear downforce upgrade on the Halo, just to improve that rear end stability a bit. So then, off to the second race of the season here in Saudi Arabia, in the city of Jeddah. As I mentioned earlier on, historically, we've not done too badly here, and in fact, it was my return on F1 2022 in Saudi Arabia, which kind of marked the start of our 2-3 season long comeback. But for all the future races, don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. There's going to be F1 23 content all week, shorts and clips uploaded here and on the other channel as well, and then 3 more races to look forward to next week, so keep an eye out for that one. Onto the starting grid though, and on pole position it is Sergio Perez alongside Charles Leclerc, who starts in P2 for the second time in a row. Behind them, Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. I start in P7 alongside Fernando Alonso, then we've got Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon. Lando Norris and Lance Stroll, Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas, Jack Doohan, Kevin Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon, Nico Hülkenberg, Oscar Piastri, Nick De Vries and Logan Sargent. And I don't know if anyone else has seen this bug, but whoever starts in P20, if it reads that name out for the 22nd driver, so that's a bit of a weird one that I've come across, and I expect it'll be fixed on day 1, but it just seems like a really lazy piece of development, to be honest, especially since it worked in the last game. But with all of that behind us, it's time to get on and enjoy the game and try and score some more points here in Saudi Arabia to try and see if we can outdo McLaren and Alpine. Okay then, that is 5 red lights. And away we go here in Saudi Arabia, starting P7 on the grid. Where can we get up to by the time we cross the line with a checkered flag. We're already being challenged into turn 1 by Fernando Alonso. We're going to go up the inside of George Russell, who started on the hard tyre, and he's going to have a bit of sluggish getaway there. Not quite made it that time, but we're going to go to the inside just here and sweep across the front of his car and take it away. P6 from him. George Russell making a massive mistake going on to the hard tyre to start this Grand Prix. He really wants something a little bit more reliable, as we make a massive mistake there. Don't think we gained too much of an advantage, but we are going to ERS it down the straight. As Alonso actually looks as though he's just moved up past Russell as well, and they battle through the hairpin. This was our start. Pretty shocking as per usual, but there's Russell, just didn't quite get up to speed too well and got blocked off by his teammate, which just allowed us to fish around for an opportunity. And then the run down to what would this be, turn 3. In we go, and nicely done. And then this was Russell. Russell's perspective, yeah, maybe slightly aggressive there, pushing him off the track, but I'm sure he won't really mind. As we rejoin in the closing sort of stages of lap 1, we've got Fernando Alonso sniffing around behind us. A bit of a train has begun to form. We're not actually able to see on F123 what the split times are to the next car, which is a bit annoying. There's space there. I mean, surely it could be added as well, but we don't get to see it right now. The important thing is, though, we've created a bit of a train, and Fernando Alonso is now going to challenge us for P6. But thankfully, it turns out that our car is a little bit of a pocket rocket, and it goes absolutely flying down the straight and leaves Alonso several tenths behind us. This is our teammate Jack Doohan on lap 2. He's being challenged by Yuki Tsunoda. He's going to go round the outside. I can't see what tyre Doohan has started on in this race. I think Tsunoda's on the soft. And so is Doohan, actually. So this is a pure performance that Yuki Tsunoda is extracting from his car. And he does get past our teammate, meaning that Jack Doohan is even further back from scoring his first points in Formula 1. We rejoin the action on lap 3. Big old train still behind us. Big old gap in front. Fernando Alonso now with the DRS. And you can see that we're not exactly settled in yet. There were still some settings to change going into this race compared to last time. Picked up some camera adjustments and some other calibrations for my wheel to make it act a little bit more like it did in the previous game, as Alonso made a mistake coming onto the DRS straight and allowed Russell to get past, but then he goes down the inside of us and be right on board, as just the ERS is enough to leave Fernando Alonso well and truly behind. In fact, on the performance comparison graphs right now, we actually have the best power unit, which is how we started off Season 2 on F122 as well. Although we did have a few more aero upgrades by that point, which allowed us to, I think, win this race, or at least come very close to winning. As we come through again, same section on lap 5. Alonso and Russell getting increasingly impatient behind us, waiting for an opportunity, which will eventually come to them. Here comes Alonso round the outside into the final corner. I think he was ahead once again at the DRS detection zone, though. And again, we're closing in even with just the ERS. Bearing in mind that ERS has 0 upgrades on it so far, so it doesn't last a particularly long time. But we're past Alonso again, and the battle for 6th rages on, with Hamilton now 5.5 seconds up the road from us. And we rejoin on lap 8. A few other cars behind have come into the pits, notably Russell and Alonso. And now it's our turn to come in, and since we started on the medium tyre, we may as well go out and stay out a little longer, and then go for a nice little sprint to the finish on the soft tyre, rather than switch to the hard like the AI insist on doing so very frequently. And all tyres are on, away we go. Russell has just gone through. He's just at the top of the screen. Here comes Fernando Alonso, though. Where are we going to come out in comparison to the 2-time world champion? We are ahead of our rival from F122, and he has to stare at the back of our car once again. Alonso, of course, famously missing out about 3 times to win the championship on F122. Sometimes due to his car and sometimes just due to bad luck. But he does get the position away from us this time, and now we have to stare at the back of the Aston Martin. With the DRS, though, we go to the right-hand side of Alonso, and before we've even made it to the braking zone, we are back past once again. Surely by now, Fernando Alonso would have been increasingly fed up and would have mentioned something on the radio describing his car as not very good. But he doesn't have long to wait because, of course, Friday will be the day 1 patch, and surely there will be some performance improvements to his car just across the board, and hopefully it doesn't screw up the whole game. But he's going to try, as he might, to get past. He's going to go for another move here around the outside of the hairpin as our tyres begin to wear out on the final lap of the race, and he does get the move done on us. But we're going to have the opportunity to get past him. We've got 1 DRS zone coming up just around this corner. And then, what, 2 more before the finish line? So he's not exactly timed this very well. And there's our DRS open for the first time. We're going to close up and lift slightly before we crash into the back of him. Go through the twisty section under the bridge. And away we go onto the second DRS zone. And we're already gaining on him. We've gone round before we've even hit the braking zone once again. Into the final corner we go. And, oh, there's Russell and Hamilton battling away. I don't think Alonso is going to be able to challenge us here. He has got the DRS, but the straight line speed is ours. And we've crossed the line in P7. And, well, that's a nice amount of points to add to our tally. In addition to the ones we picked up in the last race. It's still early on in the season, though, so Aston Martin still have the opportunity, as does Fernando Alonso, to try and overtake us in the standings later on. But, yeah, once again, Max Verstappen wins a Grand Prix. I get the feeling that we're going to see this quite often between now and the end of the season, and hopefully we get some changes in the next season as well. I'm really hoping that we get something along the lines of F1 2021 where the world champion just moves to Williams for some reason, because that would just be funny. Anyway, on to the full race results. And here are the full race results. Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez stood on top of the podium for the second race of the season. Then we have Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, the Radiant Sloths, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon, with George Russell picking up the fastest lap. Over to the Drivers' Championship, Max Verstappen remains at the top of the table ahead of a joint second place Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez. Behind them, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Radiant Sloths, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon make up the top 10. Further down the order, we have Yuki Tsunoda as the final point scorer, followed by Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, Jack Doohan, Alex Albon, Valtteri Bottas, Oscar Piastri, Zhou Guanyu, Kevin Magnussen, Logan Sargent, Nico Hulkenberg and Nick De Vries. Over to the Constructors, and Red Bull unsurprisingly leading the way there, nearly 40 points ahead of rivals Ferrari. Back to third place, we have Mercedes and Slothz leading the charge for fourth, ahead of McLaren and Aston Martin, tied on 8 points. Behind them, Alpine, AlphaTauri, Williams, Alfa Romeo and Haas make up the rest of the order. And that's all for this race, and we'll catch you tomorrow for Australia.